Okay, we're in part 3 of 3 parts. I'm interviewing Gabriel Sid, the Cidman, about his experience with COVID-19. He was in the hospital for too many days for me to count, but it's a lot of days. And then rehab of some kind for another 9 days. The total number of days, Gabriel, was how much?
About 50, I think it was, when it was all said and done. 50 days away from
50
home.
days, including 9 days in Stanford in
the rehab.
Rehab. Okay. And
yeah,
toward the end of part,
it was actually a nursing home, but it was the rehab.
Okay. At the end of part 2, you were talking about some of the hallucinations, some of the visions that you had while you were on a ventilator. So tell us some more about that.
Yeah, so some of the more, I guess, scary ones were I had a hallucination that my mom passed away on one day from COVID, and my brother passed away the second day from COVID. And it was really kind of dark because, and I actually, I think in my mind, I heard it on the news or something like that. And I remember sitting in my, and I was definitely awake for this. I was definitely out of the ventilator and in my room recovering. And I remember just crying in my room, in my mind that this happened. And I was like, for my mom in my mind and being really upset about it. And my kids, we would have these Zoom calls or just phone calls. And I would ask them about it. And they would say, no, Dad, my grandma's fine. Everyone's fine. We're just worried about you. And I was like, stop lying. I know you're trying to make me feel better. Just tell me the truth. I can take it. Just let me deal with it. And they were like, no, Dad, she's fine. Then my kids played this video call with my mom, and I accused them of using videos from some prior time to lie to me. And same with my brother.
So you were at that point a little crazy. I use the word advisedly, I hope. But
yes,
I mean, because you're not being realistic and you wouldn't listen to reason and you were convinced. So you're sort of paranoid. Correct. Or sort of whatever. Did you feel crazy?
Paranoia played a part in every single one.
Did you feel crazy at the time? Like, geez, I don't know what's real? Or were you just sort of certain about
with the one with my mother and my brother, I started questioning and told the doctor, I just don't know what's real anymore, because my kids keep telling me that they didn't pass away, but I know they did. And I remember I was so convincing, I guess because I was so emotional, I was so convincing to the nurses. They were looking up my brother because I told them that he died at Greenwich Hospital, and they were looking him up to see maybe he did pass away.
And where do your mother
didn't.
Where do your mother and your brother live? Where do they live?
Well, my mom lives in Byram. My brother lives in Litchfield.
Okay.
But yeah, this is like the weird stuff. Again, these are definitely hallucinations that felt very real to me. And I had 3 different hallucinations, I think 2 or 3, where my wife tried to break me out of Greenwich Hospital because I was so paranoid that the nurses and doctors were torturing me, trying to steal my data from my phone. And I got into this big fight with a billionaire doctor who owned the hospital, which obviously all this is a big hallucination, but in my mind it was real.
Yeah.
And the doctor had all the nurses and doctors under him conspiring against me. And I kept telling my wife, you got to get me out of here. And there was like, as her second failed attempt at breaking me out of the hospital was bringing my brother to the hospital. And I could hear them screaming outside my room. And I could hear my brother was really sick. And I was like, why would you bring my brother who's sick to the hospital to break me out? And that's when they said, sir, you're very sick. And they checked him into the hospital, and he had COVID, and he was very, very sick, and he passed away the next day.
So
in my hallucination, that's the way it went down.
Do you think that you were shouting out things in this time? Were you? Do you know? You have a nightmare and you talk in your sleep or something. Do you think you were saying things?
Yeah, and I was awake for a lot of these. I was up. So
no, but I mean, when you were enraged or scared as hell, and you're talking about doctors conspiring against you, were you saying things? Okay,
yes.
so you were.
I remember.
Yeah, you were accusing them of things, so that must have been fun taking care of somebody that. And I imagine this is not the only time somebody did things like this.
Yeah, no, I accused the nurses of stealing my phone. When they would try to grab it to try to like help me unlock it, I was like, no, no, give me my phone. I would snatch it back from them. Um, one doctor had his little case they had these little carts with all their equipment to take vitals. And I would say, doctor, I think that's my phone there. He's like, no, 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 that's ours.
Wow.
I was like, no, I think it's my phone.
Does it make
and
you,
so that's the level.
does it make
Go
you
ahead.
wonder or think at all about people that have a condition that is not drug induced and it's not COVID induced or whatever causes it, that they're actually their mentality is leading them down paths like
Well,
that? Because I mean, it must be
it's
terrifying not to be in touch with
well, it's
reality.
what is reality? Well, it's funny you asked that. The way I thought about it, maybe this is more about me than anything, was I was thinking like, back in the old days, in the 70s, 60s, people were taking drugs to hallucinate. I'm like, why would you want to do this? Like, why
Yeah.
would you purposely put LSD in your body or whatever, mushrooms or whatever? Why would you want to be in this state where you don't control your reality? Your mind is not your mind.
Well, let's pursue that for
So
a minute.
that.
Okay, if Timothy Leary or somebody else was encouraging people to do that, I know very little about this, and I don't know whether there's an after effect that is in some way helpful to your creative processes or your understanding of the world, or whether it's just a disorienting thing that you experience and then you might remember it. But I mean, so the things that you experienced, have they done anything for your awareness now?
No, it was all fear based. It was all it's things that I wish I could forget. Like, again, I had another hallucination where, as part of a attempted surprise party for my wife, I believe, two of my kids were killed in an accident and in the surprise party attempt. So just really awful things. One thing where, yeah, again, some of your audience may like this, where I was involved in a plot to assassinate Donald Trump. And we ended up actually shooting him in front of St. Patrick's Cathedral, but I was cleared because I wasn't the shooter. But again, a lot of anxiety and stress. It's everything.
And
The whole thing with the whole. Sorry, go ahead.
what was causing the hallucinations? I should know, and you may already have said, but
It was the drugs.
It was
The
the drug.
drugs.
The
Yeah.
drug you signed permission for, or other things?
No, I think it was the drugs to knock me out. I think that
Okay.
was from what I understand, from what I've read, it's the drugs they use to knock you out that cause these and they're saying also another factor that's special to COVID is the fact that you're alone in your room. Everyone that comes into your room has a mask. All you see is eyeballs. And even when the nurses are there, they're only there for a short period of time. They're there to take your vitals or to address some issue or to bathe you or whatever, but they're not there like in the old days where they could kind of be there and support someone.
Okay.
So I think all those things contribute to people having really bad, I call them hallucinations. I guess medically they're called hospital deliriums.
What's the first word before delirium?
Hospital deliriums.
Oh, okay.
That's how they described it in the New York Times article that I read about it.
Okay. I just became aware of that article, and I will go back to it. It sounds really interesting. Okay, anything else you want to say about delirium, hospital delirium?
No, I think I just want to emphasize how little that article in the New York Times is the only thing I've seen about it. No one's really talked much about it, and that's the thing that I remember. A friend of mine before I got sick, we were discussing COVID, and he goes, "I wish I would just get it and get it over with and be done with it." And now that I've been through this, I'm like, you're never done with this. Like if you have, even if you don't have what I have with ventilator, you're just sick for weeks and weeks. This disease, once it grabs you, it doesn't let go. And even the recovery part of it, like I've been COVID free now for over a month and a half now. And, I still have a lot of issues that I'm dealing with that are all COVID related. It's not something like a flu where you're sick like a dog for 5 days or 10 days and then you're back to normal. Like this thing could have permanent impact on my life.
Okay, and I'm going to ask you about a couple of those things in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to a few questions that I had. Want to get them in.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm so proud of them that I got to ask them. At what point in
Yes.
the ordeal were you the most worried or concerned? You know, either
I
time-wise or condition-wise?
I think it was that point when the doctor told me you're going to go under, and the nurse prayed with me. I think that was because that was to me the realest moment where my life that could have been it. And I remember thinking with the nurse, this may be the last person I see in my life. So that was of everything as far as the number one most fearful time, that was it.
So it's just before you went into
The
were
ventilator.
connected to the ventilator.
Yeah.
Did you have any thought along the lines of, gee, there's some things I would do right now if I could magically do them? Was there anything like that?
No,
Nothing.
no.
Yeah.
It was all just in the moment, the fear in the moment,
Okay.
the reality of what was in front of me.
Okay. Uh,
Well, actually, there was one other moment that was a close second. Um, so I was not on the ventilator for 18 days, and then they took me off, and then I guess my oxygen was still not great. My body wasn't ready, so they put me in again. The second time they put me under, I think they didn't give me all the drug to knock me out. Kind of like I was telling you before. Sometimes they choose not to give you that much drug because they don't want to cause a lot of damage. Um, so I think I was still somewhat awake when they were trying to intubate me the second time, and I don't know if it was taking a long time or just in my mind it just felt like it was forever. And I remember I was struggling to get oxygen because they're stuffing this thing down your throat,
yeah.
and I just remember just seeing hands in my face and they're trying to put this thing down my throat, and it just felt like it was taking forever, and I was just basically suffocating. And that was the only time where I remember waving at the doctor and saying, "That's it, let me die." I couldn't talk, but I was like signaling, "That's it, no more, just stop."
Wow.
So that was probably the second time where I had concern.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah.
You indicated this might be a quick answer. What's the worst thing about being stuck in the hospital for all those weeks with a
I
possibly deadly disease?
I think because of COVID, not having anyone be able to visit you, no family, and part of my hallucinations were that my wife was sneaking in to visit me, and I think obviously I was missing that contact, so my mind was making up people visiting me
Yeah,
when they weren't able to. So I think that's the worst part, not having anyone. And then again, the nurses and the doctors, they come and go, right? So you'll have a nurse for one shift, then another nurse for another shift, and again, they're there just to kind of make sure that you're okay medically or physically, but they're not there for emotional support that much. So just being that feeling of loneliness is pretty bad for as long as I was there.
okay. How do you feel today about your health? You suggested you've still got things to be concerned about. Are there specific health concerns that you're aware of, and how often are you contacting a doctor?
Well, first off, I just want to say that I'm definitely not, thank God. I've read a lot of people who are worse off than I am. So I just want to say that I don't want to sound like I'm complaining, because I am grateful that I am alive and able to deal with these things versus the other option of, being 6 feet under at this point.
Yeah.
So the things that I'm dealing with, blood pressure is somewhat elevated. So I'm on 2 different medications to deal with the blood pressure. Blood clots are, I think, a common thing for most COVID patients that are in the hospital for as long as I was. So, back of your mind, blood clots always sound scary. So I'm on medication for that. And then also I have like these nerve issues on my 2 triceps, my quads, and then these 2 fingers. I have a loss of sensation. And so it's hard to describe, but like when I pinch here, and it feels normal, like if you were to pinch your own forearm. But then if I touch here, it feels very different, like I'm not touching it. If someone hits me and my dog jumps on me and touches this forearm, this tricep, it hurts like crazy. Same with this fingers. And also my veins, I don't know if it's related to the nerve issues, but my veins feel like they're on fire randomly. Like I'll be sitting or standing and I'll feel like there's fire going through my veins. So I don't know if that's a result of all the IVs, all the blood draws, all the medication that's been pumping through my veins. So I don't know if my veins are trying to come back or they're damaged. So I'm seeing a neurologist next Tuesday to deal with that. I also have a dermatologist because I think my immune system took a whack. So my hands, I have all these, like, I don't know if you can see, but my hands are peeling. And I have these, like, I think it was because of the Purell, the hand sanitizer that I was using recently. My hands kind of are all cut up. So I think because my immune system is so weak that hand sanitizer is damaging my skin. So I'm seeing it, derma for that. And also, I think the dermatologist said that due to stress, I had like these 3 bald spots in the back of my hair,
Say
back of
again,
my
you
head,
have what? You have what?
like 3 little bald spots in the back of my hair. And he said it's because of the stress that I was under while I was in the hospital and all the hallucinations, just, being that sick and the immune system being so weakened. But that, that's something that will come back. He gave me some steroid shots in those 3 areas, but that will come back. So my biggest concern is just the nerve issues in my arms and my legs. The blood pressure, I know I'll get under control. Diet, medication, and with time, that will be okay. But it's mostly the physical issues with my nerves that I'm at this point most worried about.
Okay. This wouldn't necessarily be your area of expertise because I'm going to ask you about other people. Are you aware of situations where, let me explain why I'm even asking this. There have been encouragements to younger people to get out there and have their lives. Go ahead and get your life. Just if you're in touch with older people or people with, health issues, that makes it different. You either got to be really careful or don't go out and have your life. But are you aware, in other words, go ahead, and if you get this, it won't be the end of the world for you to get it.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots and lots of infections worldwide and especially nationwide, largely among young people who have gone out, gone to the beaches, gone to restaurants, gone to bars, socialized. Are you aware of a whole lot of bad stuff that happens to young people, even if they aren't hospitalized? Do they get conditions? If you don't know this, you don't know this, but I
Well,
don't.
again, the only reason I know is I joined a Facebook group of COVID survivors, people that have COVID and survivors. And a lot of people are young, again, young meaning 20s, 30s,
Right.
who again, may not be, like in my case was I got sick quickly, got on a ventilator quickly, and 3 weeks later I'm off the ventilator and now I'm in the recovery phase. But there are people who get it and are never hospitalized, but they're just sick for a long time, for weeks and weeks and weeks. Again, I'm not sure which is worse. I think coming close to dying is probably worse, but
Right.
I don't know if I would want to be sick for 30, 40 weeks. Like, that to me, that sounds insane.
So
And a lot of people
I think
go
of,
ahead.
I glance at least at the numbers, the graphs that go up on
Mhm.
TV on lots of the stations anyway. And it'll be a while before we really know what those numbers mean. But
Yeah.
what I'm asking kind of includes the idea of a lot of people did not get hospitalized. They're not going to die from it, at least not now. They tend to be younger people. They get it. And what you're saying is, at least for some of them, it's quite bad because
Well, and that's the thing.
they have a condition for weeks or months,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
They're
that's the
not
thing.
hospitalized and they didn't die, right?
And like I told my friend, like, if you could guarantee me that I would only get the 5-day sickness or the 12-day sickness, I would sign up for it. All right, I'll suck it up for 12 days or 2 weeks. I'll be sick and then I'll be okay.
Yeah.
But you just have no way of knowing. And the doctors don't know. Even when I was in the hospital, I would ask them, why did I get it? Why now why did I get it? But why did I get so sick? And they're like, we just don't know. They're like, it could be your blood type. I didn't have any medical history that would indicate that sick. I didn't have the blood type that's more prone to getting this sick. So they really have no idea why someone, like in my family's example, why my daughter, thank God, only had it for 2 weeks at home, and why I went through, knocking on death's door. So
Right.
they have no way. Again, we have very similar genes. She's my daughter. We live in the same house. So, there's no way for young people to say, well, I'm just going to get it over with now and get it, because you just don't know. Like, I remember before I got sick, there was that case somewhere in this area. It was I think late 20s, early 30s baseball coach, obviously in great shape, healthy guy, no medical issues. He got it, and I think within like a few days, he passed away in his home. Like his wife said, she gave him dinner that night. He went to bed. He was having some breathing issues. The next morning, he's gone. So, just because you're young and healthy doesn't mean this thing won't ruin your life or take your life. And
Right.
that's a big gamble. And I know when I was young, you think you're invincible. So I don't know if I'm just wasting my time talking to young people, but that's a big gamble to take with your life. And not even addressing the whole idea of you're bringing the virus to your aunts, uncles, grandparents, or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a whole different discussion. But just as an individual, you have no guarantee which one you're going to get. You can get very, very sick and come close to dying, if not
Okay.
die.
That leads kind of to the last couple of questions. I assume your opinions regarding COVID-19 are at least somewhat different from what they were before you contracted the virus. How would you describe your viewpoint now, if it has changed?
I'm definitely more aware of what it really means to be a COVID patient, as far as just the whole magnitude of it. Right before, everyone just focused on, you get sick, you get these symptoms, you get the fever, the cough, the shortness of breath, and in my mind, as far as what we were being told in the media, that's it. That's what COVID is. You get sick, you may go to the hospital, you be on a ventilator, and then you go home. No one ever discussed, the after effects. And one of the articles that I read said that for every day you're in the hospital, it's a 7-day recovery. So in my case, that's 10 months. So again, God willing, I'm progressing pretty fast, because I'm young, and I'm pushing myself really hard to recover. But even if I say 5 months,
Yeah.
that would mean that my COVID experience is a 7-month ordeal. Like, that's, before I got sick, I would never have thought that COVID means 7 months.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think that's the one thing that we're learning now through all this data and research of what it really means, the magnitude. And like I said, I'm lucky that I have some issues with my arms and blood pressure. People have lost limbs. People have heart conditions, pancreas, kidneys. It's not just a respiratory illness. It can impact your entire body.
Okay. If you had
Besides the mental and PTSD, that's also a thing.
If you had a 1-minute spot that would be broadcast across the United States, what would you say to people about coronavirus?
I would say, don't play, again, geared more towards the younger crowd. Don't play Russian roulette with your life or your family's life by not being smart and following the guidelines. Follow the guidelines. It's not a big of you to wear a mask, to socially distance. And if, worst case, if you had to be locked away for months of not seeing your friends physically and being at home watching Netflix for 6 months, it's not a big sacrifice to make for the greater good. Eventually, this thing will be controlled, I hope. There'll be a vaccine, or we'll all have herd immunity, something. But I think to say, I've been at my home for 3 months, I have to go to the beach, I have to go to a bar, to me, that's selfish and irresponsible. It's not worth going through what I went through for anything. I can't imagine anything that is worth going through what I went through the last 3 months of my life.
So would you say that if people had been by your bedside during some of this experience, the delirium and the rest of it, that they would, their nonchalance or their cavalier attitude would vanish? Would you think just necessarily they would go, whoa,
If
wait a
not,
minute here? Huh?
I
What?
think again, back to the thing. Well, I think back to the thing about being young. If I try to think of when I was young, you think, oh, that's not going to happen to me. I'm smarter. But I would hope that if someone sees how sick I was, how much I went through, I would hope they would say, wow, this is a real thing. It's not a hoax, as some people in the government have said.
Yeah.
It's not a hoax. This is a real thing. It's a real disease that really can kill you, and it has killed people.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not in any category where I was a high risk person, but I got it pretty bad. So
Yeah.
there's no way to say, if I do this, I won't get this sick. There's just no way of saying that. So why risk getting that sick as I was, or worse, for what? For a six pack, going out, having dinner. Like, it's not that we're not in World War II where you have to make real sacrifices. We have to wear a mask, we have to socially distance, we can order out, we have TV, we have internet, we have roofs over our heads. There's no reason to sacrifice your life for anything out there at this point. It's just my personal opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope I can convince one person out there to wear a mask if they go out, or just not to go out at all, and just be safe and take care of yourself and your family.
We'll see what we can do about getting this posted in various spots. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I look forward to seeing it online. Thank you, Jerry.